is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away.
Good morning. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved, God, great masters of Kriya, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Moshai, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramhamsa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. O great masters, be with us in our practice of Kriya and throughout our day, that we may be true Kriya yogis, living in your light, in your joy, in your love, at all times, and sharing those blessings with all whom we meet. Om. Peace. Amen. Please be seated, and we'll have some music.
When I move forth through crowded ways, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee.
When I laugh, oh, and when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand.
So silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally. My path lead me over desert sands, though it take me through bitter storms. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee.
When I'm working and when in hand repose, that come victory or no defeat. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee.
In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally.
Please, just in case. Thanks.
Howard.
think between that and what the singers just did, the class has already been given. We can just sit here and meditate. So, my name is Nayaswami Gandev. I'll be starting off our class, and I'll be followed by Nayaswami Parvati, Nayaswami Pranaba, and Nayaswami Ananda. All of us are ministers here at Ananda Village and serve in various other managerial or teaching capacities. It's wonderful to be here with you. I want to start by sharing a quotation from Master. And he was talking about, this is from Essence of Self-Realization, he was talking about pranayama, Kriya as a pranayama. Pranayama means control of the energy in the body and its direction upward through the spine to the brain and to the Christ center between the eyebrows. This alone is the pathway of awakening. Would you like to raise the microphone? This alone is the pathway of awakening. It isn't a matter of dogma or belief. It is simply the way we were all made by God. We can never experience anything outside ourselves except vicariously, as the senses report their impressions to the brain. We may try to expand our understanding of the world by study, or our enjoyment of it through sense pleasures. The fact remains we can never know anything except through the medium of the senses, so long as the life force remains trapped in the body. There is a way out, however. It is for the life force to merge with the cosmic energy, for the consciousness to merge with infinite consciousness. The way to accomplish this end is to withdraw the life force from the senses and center it in the spine, to direct it upward through the spine to the brain, and thence out through the Christ center between the eyebrows. Concentration at this center in the spiritual eye, the seat of spiritual vision, projects the consciousness beyond the ego into infinity. This is the path of Kriya Yoga. And how do we do that? How do we project the ego out into infinity? If we are going to depend on a technique that we do for an hour, maybe two on our better days each day, and let's face it, not all that well sometimes, how are we going to do that? Somehow, what happens during the rest of our day is going to have to support that. And this is where we come to Kriya Yoga in daily life. What are we going to do? What is filling the rest of our day? Is it restlessness? Is it busyness? Is it stress? Is it emotional turmoil? Yeah. A lot of the time, probably so. Yeah, it's lurking out there. I think we've all had some excellent additions to our vocabulary during the pandemic. Words that I never even knew before, like antigen and remdesivir. There's another one that was new to me also, the production number. That sounds like counting your number of children to me, but really it has specific reference to the pandemic. And it is the production number, affectionately known as R0, the letter R with the subscript 0, R0, is the number of people that a person with a particular variant of COVID is likely to infect. As I thought about this in context of this class, I realized, that restlessness, that busyness, that emotional turmoil, all that stuff, each one of those has an R0 also. It might or might not infect other people, but it will certainly infect other hours of our day, including, perhaps, our meditation practice, our Kriya practice. And so the question becomes, what can we do? What are we going to do about this so that, yes, we are going to be busy, we are going to have our emotional elements. How is the Kriya yogi going to respond to that in a way that maybe not everybody else responds to those circumstances? And I thought that basically what we're going to do is follow a simple 3-part recipe that was given to us earlier in the week. I see no hands raised yet in recognition. Okay, it was given to us earlier in the week by Nayaswami Devi. And she is the only one disqualified from answering that question. It was not originally given to Nayaswami Devi. It was given to her by Maria Warner. So the first part of that is detach yourself. What does that mean? Well, step back. Remember how in that quotation I read, Master was saying, we can basically only ever experience anything inside ourselves. We can't experience stuff out there. The experience of it doesn't happen. It happens out there, but not our experience. We have to step back and feel what's happening. And where is it happening? Right in the spine. And as Kriya yogis, we know this, but it can be helpful to refresh our awareness of what's happening. I thought I was pretty aware of the spine, but then when Jyotish was talking about Sushumna, Vajra, Chitra, Brahmanadi, I thought, okay, I need to go a little deeper into my awareness of the spine. And this is what we all need to do at all times of the day, really, but especially during our Kriya practice, of course. So I thought I'd take you through a very simple exercise to heighten our awareness of the spine. This is an exercise that Swami would often have us do when we first come up to a standing position. That's very easy, trivial almost. Close your eyes. And we're all used to watching the energy in the spine, so just watch the energy in the spine for a moment. Not breathing at any particular pace or not deep breathing, just breathe naturally. And with your attention locked on that flow, for some of us it may be very, very centralized. For others of us it may be a little spread out more. But let's make it very precisely centered. Let's sway the body left and right and try to resist that sway with the spine, with the astral spine, until you sway less and less, until you come to a place of perfect stillness in the center. Simple little practice that we can use to heighten our awareness of the spine. But we can do more than that. We can essentially force ourselves to be more aware of the spine. You're going to want to open your eyes. Most of you will want to open your eyes for this one, because we're going to stand on one leg. Stand on one leg. And, whoa, I'm getting seasick watching everybody go back and forth here. Okay, stand on one leg, be nice and centered. Just notice if you can focus on the spine more, this is going to be easier. If you're focusing on your leg, or yet focusing on somebody who's moving in front of you, it's going to be harder. Simple practice. Go ahead and relax the foot back down. And of course, we're going to do the other side. So let's stand on the, for those of you who can't remember which leg you were standing on at first, you sit down, but everybody else can do the second side. And again, focus on the spine. Don't put your awareness anywhere else. Detach yourself, step back, and just feel what's happening on the inside. It sounds easier than it is, isn't it? Yeah, okay, you can put the foot back down. Simple, simple practice. In fact, you can sit down now. Because we're going to go to step 2 of that not-so-secret formula, which so many of you remembered step 1. I'm sure that many of you remember step 2, and that is control the reactive process. Very good, very good. Now, what reactive process? I mean, we're here, it's Kriyaban retreat, we're having a good time, we're meditating a lot, but a lot of us, our mind and spine, are still back on what was happening while I was trying to balance on one leg. And some of us are celebrating our ability to do that. Energy's popping up through the spine, right? And some of us are not celebrating because we couldn't quite pull it off, and energy is going down through the spine, right? In other words, the reactive process is happening, and we're not in control of it. So let's control it. Another simple little practice that Swamiji offered in the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Real simple, it's very Kriya-like, in fact. Close your eyes. Focus on the breath in the spine. And equalize your inhalations and exhalations. Same duration, same strength, nice even flow. And transfer that equalization of the physical breath to the astral breath. Equalize the upward and downward flows of energy in the spine. Right away, the reactive process starts to calm down as you simply assert the simplest of controls. And you can do even better. Because what is the very center of the reactive process? It's the heart chakra. The heart is where we decide whether we like things or not. So each time the current of energy flows up through the heart or down through the heart, feel that it's bestowing a gentle pulse of calmness to the heart. Just a gentle touch of calmness. And now let go of it and just observe the spine. Is the spine quieter? Is the reactive process settled down? How easy was that? Let's open our eyes again. These are simple things, but try that practice that we just did when you're not at a Kriyaban retreat and things are boiling up a little bit in your life. It's a marvelous and very, very simple practice to just take charge of the reactive process. This is not something that we're doing only in Kriya, but can do the rest of our day in what I like to call everyday Kriya. There's regular Kriya and there's everyday Kriya, and they're doing the same thing. Everyday Kriya might not be as powerful as regular Kriya, but they're both taking charge of the spinal energies. They're both taking charge of the reactive process. And now, what is the third part of the secret recipe?
Live the teachings.
Live the teachings. Very good. Detach yourself, control the reactive process, live the teachings. Or another way to put it, live in the spine. And that means not only experiencing what we've been focusing on for these few minutes, but also live from the spine. We all have to move around in life. We're not just sitting still all the time. Can we feel that when we move the body, when we do something, when we feed ourselves even, can we feel that we're moving from the spine? The answer is yes, and we're going to prove it to ourselves right now. In a moment, not yet, in a moment we're going to stand up again. But I'd like you to stand up from the spine. Now wait a minute, see. The spine doesn't have these muscles that make me stand up. It's legs and stuff like that. What is standing up from the spine? What's happening when you stand up? Energy goes out from the spine to the periphery of the body to make these muscles do what they do. Try to tune into that process. You can almost feel like the spine is inflating. Like you're a giant balloon and you're just being inflating up to a standing position. It's more fun than struggling and pushing up, isn't it? Yeah, it lifts your spirits besides. And then when you sit back down, just feel energy coming back to the spine. Go ahead. Sit down and return all that energy to the spine. That was so much more graceful than the last time you sat down. Swami used to say, when you sit down, don't collapse into the chair. Place your body in the chair. Return the life force to the spine. We can be doing these sorts of things all day long. And they're so simple. And what's even better is that they're going to feed our Kriya practice. The next time we come around to Kriya practice, it's not we're going to have to recover from what has gone before, because we've been busy all day keeping ourselves in the spine. And each Kriya practice, Master said, I've always been so intimidated by this instruction of Master, every meditation should be deeper than the last. But what if, from our last Kriya, we did these simple little practices like this so that by the time the next Kriya comes around, we're already in a higher step. It might just be a millimeter higher, but we're higher. And that meditation can be deeper than the last one. Our experience of Master's presence can be deeper than the last one. And just one final point I want to make, and that is, how are we going to practice everyday Kriya? How are we going to practice regular Kriya? Do we practice mechanically? In, out, up, down, cool, warm, ah-ee. Let's hope not. No, we don't. We practice it with joyful self-offering. We practice it with devotion. We practice with attunement to the Guru. Of course. If we don't do those things, Kriya is just a technique. And just a technique is helpful, better than nothing, but it's not going to take us to God. But when we bring those attitudes, when we bring that attunement into our practice, that's what's going to take us to God. And we can bring those same attitudes, that same attunement into everyday Kriya. It's no different. Just think of it. If our whole day we were in some way or another, maybe not constantly, maybe we're not quite that awake yet, but regularly practicing some expression of Kriya, not only when we're sitting in our meditation place on our asana, but regularly through the day. That's going to make a huge difference in our practice. It's going to make a huge difference in our lives. We are going to have an R0 that infects other people with joy, with the self-offering, with the attunement. And that's when we're going to be real Kriya Yogis.
When I was thinking about this topic, I thought, from the very beginning when I took Kriya Yoga here from Swami Kriyananda, I never felt it was separate from the rest of my life. I could feel that there was such power and potential in it, and it was how Swami talked about it. He certainly gave it in that spirit, but it was like, of course, it's Kriya Yoga as a way of life. And so the flow of the energy is what I was always inspired by. And we couldn't be super inward, although I have to say, in the early years, the people that came, the smaller core group, people came to find God. And that was a very powerful consciousness here at Ananda. It's really what helped to build the whole work. And so we meditated a lot, in the early years. We meditated morning and evening, and then meditate at noon, and then Saturday night maybe there'd be a 3-hour meditation. I mean, what are you going to do when you don't have a car and you're out in the middle of the woods? You're going to meditate, have satsang with other people. But anyway, I just, in thinking about it, I thought, Kriya Yoga is, and I'm saying this because it's an ongoing practice. I mean, you have to commit. I will, then you do it. Every day you do it as a rhythm, because as you do that, that's what opens the channel for master, for the grace of the gurus, the grace being the power to come into our lives. Without that, it comes some, and people are sincere and all of that, but Kriya Yoga is going directly to the truth of the matter and why we're bound. And so there's a tremendous possibility there of opening and of us feeling the power. I was thinking about the qualities that I've felt that the practice of Kriya over time, and somehow the phrase from the Bible, God comes like a thief in the night. And that's what happens with Kriya Yoga and the practice. And it's why that regular practice, you find, so what did I notice? I noticed I had balance in my life. Just what Gyandev did, that exercise of standing on one foot, I'm not so great at anymore, but balance that allowed me, Swami would use that example of the spinning wheel, and that it draws into the center what's closer to the center and wants to go to the center, and it spins off around the edges what isn't going in toward the center. And that balance really can help your life tremendously, because what we have going is we have life going, and we have the practice of Kriya going, and we have to combine those energies. We have to understand that both of those energies are always at work for us. And so I just wanted to tell you a couple of little stories about what happened for me and why I felt I had balance. Because it's like, wow, we were living in a time when Swami was creating all of Ananda. And so that ability to, he would make little phrases like, a yogi should be able to turn on a dime. And I never forgot that little phrase. I thought, wow, now there's something to really think about being able to do. So I want to share with you a little story that happened, an experience that happened for Pranaba and me. We had been working at the Expanding Light. We were always looking for ways to bring income into the Expanding Light. This was late 80s, and I believe Gyandev was working there as well then. And so I thought, let's go on a tour. So we've got a car, we've got money for gas, let's just do it. I mean, there was no money to go on a tour, we just did it. And so we made up this schedule and we printed flyers and we went out, and so we did a big loop. We went to Salt Lake City, we went into Colorado, 3 different locations. We drove down to Sedona, we did there, we went to Phoenix, and all along the way, and it was okay. We had people come and it was fun, but we were doing it for the Expanding Light, and we were doing it with the idea that we would come back the next year. So we were making contacts along the way. In other words, it wasn't just a one-off thing. We really were trying to help produce something, income. And so we were going along and everything was going fine. And then we got to Sedona, which was kind of strange because we were very late. We got a little lost on the highway. We were saying, okay, when we get there, we won't even be able to really talk to our host that we're staying with. We've got to prepare for our evening class, and we'll just do what we need to do. And we arrived, and the first weird thing was we had forgotten that there was an hour difference in time. And so it wasn't like, oh my God, we've got, we only have 45 minutes to do everything. No, we had plenty of time. Because I said, Pranaba, you do whatever you need to do. You're the lead on the program, and I'll spend time with our hostess. It's just right. But then we had lots of time. And so that was fun. And then we went and we did the program, and that was nice too. And then we came back, and there was a message on Joy Pollock, I think was her name, on her phone. And the message said, call Terry McGilloway right away. And this was like 9:30 at night, and I thought, well, it says right away, okay. So, and Terry McGilloway at the time, Hriman from Seattle, he was directing the Expanding Light. And so we called, and I said, so Hriman, what's happening? And he said, how's your Italian? And I just said, what? And he said, Swami Kriyananda would like you to move, you and Pranaba, Bent at the time, would like you to move to Italy very, very soon, as quickly as you can. We hadn't even finished our tour yet. We were still going. And it was the one time in my, balance, but it was one time in my life when I felt like I was going 90 miles an hour and hit a brick wall. Concrete, actually, was more the feeling, because it was like, what? What? I know it's Swami, and I know it's, but it's like, but we've got, and so balance comes when you're not too much outside yourself doing anything and not attached to what you're doing. So there was obviously attachment there, but at any rate, so we talked with Hriman and we said, yes, we're both fine with it, we'll do it. We went on to Phoenix and then we went home, and we had home, which was here, and we had a few weeks. We had to pack up all of our things. We had to sell our car. This was indefinite moving to Italy. This wasn't just a few weeks or something. And then we had to pack and go. So this was beginning part of April. We got to the village maybe middle of April. By the middle of May, we were on a plane with Shivani going to Italy to live there. Yeah, so, but just, I thought, wow, what a good example to show me how balance works and how you really have to always, and it's a very good thing that Kriya Yoga gives you because it puts you in the spine. And if you continually are doing it, you're working more and more from that balance of the spine, and in addition, with non-attachment. So it's a fun thing because we have the tremendous opportunity of the adventure of the spiritual path with Kriya Yoga practice, because it will pervade every part of your life. And so balance is one part, but very, very essential for whatever you end up doing and whatever your karma brings you over a lifetime. Remember that image that for me was boom, hitting a concrete wall with energy, and then saying, okay, turn on a dime? Yes, I can do that. I can do that. And how much you gain from doing that. You know, spiritually, that builds your balance because you don't ever forget that kind of experience. And then you remember what it felt like just to turn around and do it. Yeah, Swami asked, of course we'll do it. Yeah, but so balance. And then the other thing I thought was that it gives you Kriya Yoga practice, which again pervades every part of your life, if you allow it to. It also allows the power and the grace of the Guru to come into your life and allow you to be able to do things like that. You could do that in a lot of different ways. You could do it lower energy. You could do it, oh, okay, well, it's okay, you know. Or you could do it, yes. You know, as Gyanamata said, and again, what I love about Ananda is that we're living the teachings. We're not just reading about it in a book. Gyanamata said, say yes and make it snappy, and then figure out how you're going to do it. And that's how Ananda was built, the whole place. There was nothing here when I came here, nothing, just farmhouse and a few shacks and stuff, and I didn't notice that at all. I had just read the autobiography when I first visited, and I very clearly remember my first 2 weekends here, and my first impression was, this feels like the autobiography to me. I didn't quite know how to say that, but what it was the consciousness of the autobiography, of master, of spiritual adventure. Wow, we can do anything that needs to happen, and we have a framework in which to do it. The spiritual path, the guru-disciple relationship, Kriya Yoga, everything that we need. And so there's that part. And then I was also thinking about as you go along, because tests like that, karma like that, it happens, you know, it'll come your way. But keep in mind, the yogi should be so balanced as to be able to turn on a dime. Turn your energy, your consciousness, whatever needs to happen, you can do it. And not grudgingly, but really, boom, you're there. It's just a habit that you develop. And then the last part I was thinking about, these are things that I feel I've gained over years of practice of Kriya Yoga. It again, comes like a thief in the night. It's there for you. And that would be expansion of consciousness and expansion of awareness. And I'm not saying I'm self-realized by any means, but it's there. You can feel it. And again, an experience that I had was we went to, in 2017, we all decided that we would have an international Kriyaban retreat at Ananda CC. And I thought, you know, we were just there last year. We went for a visit for a couple of weeks. I wasn't really looking forward to it because I should have been, but I wasn't. I thought we were just in Assisi. It's a long way to go. It'll be hundreds of people on a small piece of land, and the food and the everything. I just was not wanting it, and it was funny. I thought, yeah, but you got to go, and so I went. It was one of the most wonderful experiences I had ever had. It was so, I had forgotten that, Assisi, they host hundreds of people all summer, every year. They know how to do that. The meals were immaculate. They went really fast. All the service, everything. None of the things that my little niggling mind was thinking, no, none of that was real. It was so, and spectacularly unreal, because there we were gathered, and when we arrived, there were flags on the road. It felt like we were entering into an astral world of Kriya Yoga. It was just really amazing. And then during the week, Kriyacharyas, about 3 or 4 each morning, would give the class. And it really, by about Thursday, I thought, this is really, I feel like I'm in another world. And it was for several reasons. One, the energy, there was no ego. All the teachers, there was no ego. So it was very astral and expansive in feeling. And then in addition, there were all these people that came from all over the world. I mean, speaking different languages, not just the usual English, Italian, and German. We had a big group from Russia, we had people from India, we had people from all over the US. There were people that came from everywhere. And there were little translations. Normally you think, oh, that's going on and it's distracting. It wasn't. It was the murmuring of all these different languages of Kriyabans. And so they could all understand what was going on. And I thought, this is the consciousness of world brotherhood. It just struck me. I thought, wow, this is what it feels like. Harmony, cooperation, expansion of consciousness. It was just fabulous. And so there's many other things I could share, but I'm not going to, because we need to have time for the other speakers. But I just want to say the practice of Kriya Yoga is just the beginning. It's like a wide open adventure that if you take it up and if you say yes to turn on the dime or to, go anyway to something you may not think you are going to enjoy, that if you just keep your energy moving expansively, then the practice of Kriya will give you the balance, the power, and the grace of the Guru, and the expansion of your own consciousness and awareness. Swami said when he wrote the commentary for the practicing the presence of God, and in the Rubaiyat, Quatrain 31, he said about experiencing God, he said, the steady expansion of consciousness surpasses all definitions of Him, God, who is undefinable. Let your devotion to God and your thoughts of Him proceed as much as possible from your experience of the divine in the silence. Many blessings.
So let's stand and stretch. I promise I won't make you balance on one foot. And I'm not going to ask you to go to Assisi, at least for now. So just sweep your arms up, stretch up. You can lock your thumbs together, open up, let the shoulders relax. You can stretch over to one side in the half moon pose. Just hold briefly, feel your breath flowing. then up again straight, over to the other side. And then bring your hands down. Clasp the hands together behind you and feel your chest opening, your shoulder blades squeezing together, the arms stretching down. Feel your breath flowing. Then release that. Put your hands on the shoulders. Do the shoulder rotation with tensions. Rotating through, squeezing, and reversing. And you may be seated now that you're liberated. Thank you. So, in that wonderful chapter in the Autobiography of a Yogi, my years in my master's hermitage, there are many, many teachings from both Master and Sri Yukteswar, many stories and many understandings. And there's a few that I want to highlight. And one is the one where Master recalls with Sri Yukteswar that as dusk approached, the evening of the day, the ending of the day, that Master says to the disciples, "The darkness of Maya is silently approaching. Let us hie homeward within." And he said this as a constant reminder to the disciples for the importance of practicing Kriya Yoga. Now, in our vocabulary, I don't think most of us use the word hie, H-I-E, correct? I learned it actually, maybe because I was born in Canada, and it's more of a British word, that I actually remember it, but I haven't heard it ever in this country, but it simply means to haste. And now haste itself as a word has taken a connotation of having more anxiety and tension. But actually what Sri Yukteswar is using it as to focus and move the energy homeward within. And it's such a poignant way of tuning into what Kriya does for us. That, I mean, one thing we have to understand is that Sri Yukteswar is using this, in a sense, metaphor of dusk to play with this. But the truth is, the darkness of Maya is always approaching. It's not as if it's only happening at dusk. It is a constant in our lives. It's a constant because creation itself is duality. And that's what Maya is. So it's always approaching us. Accurately for a lot of us, it's overwhelming us. It's taken over, as both Gyandev and Parvati have alluded to. But it's a sweet way of understanding that we can always go within, homeward within. That's the choice we have at all times. Immediately following that quote, Master quotes Sri Yukteswar saying, in regards to some disciples feeling unworthy to take up the practice of yoga. And he says these wonderful words, "Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until anchored in the divine." If you are making, or he says that all things will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now. And it comes down to this now that we're dealing with. How do we make sure, how do we, in a sense, find the ways that we're talking about this morning and throughout this past week, to find some practical way of doing that? Well, I want to add another quote, and this isn't from the Autobiography of a Yogi. It's not from our masters. It's from P.G. Wodehouse. For those that don't know P.G. Wodehouse, who he is, he was a British humorist that wrote many, many wonderful stories that Swami Kriyananda very much enjoyed, and likewise many of us have enjoyed them over the years. But I think it's at least one of the stories, and perhaps several of P.G. Wodehouse's amazing stories, where he's in a situation where things aren't going well. And he says, "It's time to sing the school song." Now, I threatened Ananda and Parvati to sing the school song, but we won't have that. We'll bypass that. So you're off the hook. But it's a very spiritual teaching, because what P.G. Wodehouse is reflecting is when things aren't going well in our lives, that we've kind of as Parvati said, hit that wall, that do we collapse from that? Do we feel we're a failure? Do we just, give in, surrender in a negative way? And he's saying, really, let's find what can work. Let's find something that we can engage in with that energy. How do we move it towards a positive experience? So, for us, let's sing the school song. Let's be inward. Let's be centered. Let's be calm. Let's be poised. Let's feel, as Gyandev wonderfully took us through, be centered in that spine in the everyday Kriya. That's our version of singing the school song. It will get us out of hot water. It will give us really the touch that will bring us into a deeper experience. Swamiji has many quotes on Kriya that are little, in a sense, sutras. They're little aphorisms that are just so amazing in giving us a direct insight that we can move with. And this is a quote that Nai Swami Devarshi uses a lot if you hear him talk about Kriya. So I will give thanks not only to Swamiji but to Devarshi of highlighting this. But Swamiji said that every Kriya should be an act, a devotional self-offering. Now, what that means is that we're at the heart of the experience rather than on the periphery of that experience. But it also means, how do we really, in a different way than Gyandev and Parvati were emphasizing, how do we make this real for the stuff part of Kriya? Because it's so easy, as Nai Swami Jyotish said at the first Kriya ceremony yesterday evening, it's so easy to get caught in just the technique side of things. That we can even do that at a high standard, but we're not being transformed by that. But we can then shift this into, how do we bring that devotional self-offering into everything? And Nai Swami Jyotish said this interesting thing that I think we all enjoyed hearing, that when he was talking about how you count your kriyas. One, he said it's important to count the kriyas and not just let them drift in whatever numbers. But then he brought out his mala, his kriya mala, and he told the story to us about that it was a gift from Swamiji in the early 1970s, and that many, many kriyas have been counted on that kriya bead. And he said both the significance of the blessing of Swamiji giving it to him, and then the power that was given to the beads through the practice of Kriya Yoga. There's an interesting thing about the counting, is that we can just leave it as counting. But many, many decades ago, I realized that is part and parcel of Kriya. Whether you count on your hand or on the mala, but that we can move from just being a mechanical thing we're doing to a devotional expression of opening ourselves. It is devotion in and of itself. And that's the tradition of doing japa with a mala, east and west. The rosary in the Catholic tradition, the Kriya beads for us, and the japa doing it on beads as well. But that is the devotion as well. It's not separate from Kriya practice. I should count my Kriyas. I get to offer with each movement of each bead, or each movement on the segments of the fingers. It is that offering. Now, interesting that there's an aspect of this from science as well, which combines this devotional with the science that we know that Kriya is always emphasizing. That Andrew Newberg, in his book, How God Changes Your Brain. Now, Andrew Newberg is he's at the head of this new neurotheology science that's developing in the world. And he is actually included in the Awake movie on the life of Master. So if you go back and you'll see him talking about things. But I think it's in the book, How God Changes Your Mind, where he talks about a study done with a meditation technique that does this, that taps the finger. And they can see from the MRIs that it has a significant effect on calming and focusing the brain. Isn't that interesting? Here we've been resisting for years. No, I don't really want to count my, or I don't want to move the forefinger, that slight movement in Hong Sa. Now you got science saying it works. But even that finger movement in Hong Sa, don't leave it as just I'm moving my finger. I'm in that experience. For all of us that have been meditating a short time, had Kriya for the first time last night, or for decades, it's the little things that we can just open up to. Instead of saying, I'm trying to make this more devotional, let it be more devotional. Because the first is from the outside in, but letting it be devotional is coming from the inside in that experience. But if we can just look through that filter in every part of our lives, then it's really possible to feel these things can happen more dynamically. I remember, I don't know if it was the first Kriya initiation that I attended, or it was at least in the first few years, that I remember clearly Swami Kriyananda at a Kriya ceremony saying this, that from now on, as a Kriyaban, let being a Kriyaban be the pivotal point in your life. Let everything else cascade from that into every experience. And again, it can easily remain as a platitude, as a saying, and we say, yeah. But as Gyandeva says, how do you make this real? How do you integrate this? And so one of the things that I've dealt with in that way, and there are probably a number of you similar to this, that I travel a lot, giving a lot of programs to Ananda groups, certainly throughout this country, but also in India and sometimes in Europe. But travel, when you fly, is that just a separate activity? Because what happens is that if we're not tuning in, time can escape. And we don't do our kriyas. And it's not, again, the mechanical thing, I need to do my kriyas, but more from the inside, I'm alive in my kriyas. And so what I do when I travel, I figure out always, how do I get to do my kriyas and my meditation? So this interesting example happened this past fall when I had a trip to Ananda, Michigan. I was there to do actually a Kriya program, to give Kriya initiation. And I'd booked months before some flights, and there were really good timings to make it work. And then 2 weeks after I booked these flights, and this has been happening a lot for all of us that fly, they sent me my new flight times. And the departing time from Sacramento Airport to go to Detroit and then Chicago was 11:58 at night. So it was a red-eye flight. And the same with coming back. It was like, the flight was at 6:30 in the morning, and it was an hour drive away as well. And so I scrambled to figure out, can I change my flights? And this is interesting, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but I had choices, of changing the flights. And the choice was either continuing with the challenge for me on that flight, or changing so that it was really a challenge for someone picking me up at midnight. And I thought, I don't want to do that to someone. I can deal with it. So Indra Devi graciously drove me to the airport, sort of late afternoon, so that I would have time to have a meal with her, and then got to the airport. And we got to the airport at around 6:30 or so, because I really thought I'm going to do a long sadhana in the airport. Now, if you've traveled, you may have not noticed this, but there are many airports throughout this country, at least, that have either chapels or meditation spaces. I can tell you, Sacramento does not have that. But what Sacramento has going for it now is that there are a lot of vacant boarding gates. And so I found one that was near this whole lounge area that nobody was around. So I thought, wow. So I energized, and I did a whole set of postures, and then I did Mahamudra, and then I sat, and I chanted, actually, mentally. And then I had about an hour and a half meditation, doing my Kriyas, Hong Sa, and all of that. And it just felt that I was so refreshed. And then I got on this plane, and you're talking about people being half awake getting on this plane, or they're super jazzed because they've drunk a whole lot of coffee to make sure they're awake for that flight. But I got on, and you know that time when you fly, when you get on a plane, you're boarding, and everyone's boarded, and then they magically have you stay longer in the tarmac. You know, so you're sitting there for some time, and I thought, okay, I'm going to meditate. Now, I've always had the practice when the plane's about to take off the tarmac, I've always visualized Master with the last smile photograph, and I always pray, take me with you if it's time to go. And that can mean a whole lot of things, and I mean it a whole lot of things. I do mean it to be a whole lot of layers. But it's a good way to say Om Tat Sat, too. So I started meditating again at that point. So this is, 12 midnight. And then the people beside me are talking, and, and I'm just pulling my cap over my head and starting to meditate. So then I had this another period of meditation, about 45 minutes. And then when I arrived, because the flight from Sacramento, because it's a small airport, doesn't go directly to another small airport, i.e. Detroit. It has to go through basically Chicago for the most part. And so I got to Chicago, and it's 6:30 in the morning or something because of the time change, the 3-hour time change and all that. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the gate, walk, which was great because I walked from one terminal to the next without taking their trams and all that, so I got my exercise in. And then it wasn't as vacated as the Sacramento airport. So, it's like that story of Master with Dr. Lewis energizing outside a hotel and a policeman comes by. It was kind of like that in the Detroit and the Chicago airport. But I thought, c'est la vie, whatever. And then it wasn't super crowded at the gate that I was going to board at. So I thought, okay, I'm on a roll here. I'm going to meditate here too, because it was my morning meditation at that point. So I did just a few yoga postures because I didn't have that much time, and after energization, and I did Mahamudra on the floor, and I remember this young woman just looked at me. What is that? And then I sat to meditate, even got in my Jyoti Mudra without anyone calling the security folks. But then here I was, I got on another plane. Same scene happens, recurring. You're sitting on the tarmac, so I thought, why not? I'll meditate more. And so in that 12-hour span of time, I probably meditated more like 4.5, 5 hours. And I thought, I can always choose to do that. But it's just a little example that if we orient our life around how does this work for me to meditate? I remember with Swamiji a few stories. That one was that a number of us were down in southern Italy in the Sorrento area. And there was a gathering of us with some people. And it was just a casual, gathering of things. And at one point, Swami left the room. And he didn't come back for about 45 minutes. And someone said when he came back, are you feeling well? Because again, his health has always been at times an issue. And he just softly said, "No, I went to do my Kriyas because I know we're getting up real early to leave for a long drive." And I thought, I'm going to remember that. And the other story was, this is when we were living at Assisi after packing up after a few weeks of being told we were going to be there, that during that time, the choir over there was performing quite frequently. Swami really encouraged that. And there was a performance probably much like Swami Maria was relating to, except it was a choir, not just a handful of people. So it was a large choir, and it was performing, I think, in a hall in the very central part of Old Assisi. So a lot of magnetism around the St. Francis energy. But it was a long endeavor because setting it up and the choir rehearsing. And remember, we're talking about Europe. So it was an early concert. It was 9 o'clock in the evening. And that's an adjustment for a lot of us that come from here. But it happened, and nobody had the time to, one, have any food in this 5-hour preparation up to the concert and then the concert. And nobody had the chance to meditate. And so after the concert was over, we went out to a restaurant with Swamiji. So it was 11 o'clock at night. And it's always enjoyable with Swamiji, of course, to be in those settings. But there was a lot of us, maybe 40, 50 of us. We took over this restaurant. And then at the end, when everyone obviously had finished their meal, he looked around with a smile and said, "Let's go home and do our Kriyas." Now we know that typically we are cautioned about not doing our Kriyas after eating a substantial amount. And Swamiji had said, so what's the choice when you're in that situation? It's closer to midnight that you're getting home, and most of us had to get up, like here, for a weekend retreat like this, to deal with the sadhana and all that, or cook in the kitchen, or do this or that early in the morning. So a lot of us were going to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. And he said this, let's go home and do Kriya. But at another time he said this thing about if the challenge is between when you're late like that and you haven't done Kriyas, he said, do your Kriyas. Ask Master to be particularly more involved in doing your Kriyas. But don't not do your Kriyas if you've got these things. But this orientation where we can look at what's happening in our daily life. How am I prioritizing, even in the midst of the busy lives that probably all of us have? What's my orientation? When do I make sure I meditate? Now in the morning, Swami Jyotish said this really obvious thing, but I think some of us are happy to hear it time and time again. Don't get up in the morning and get involved in things, checking your emails or whatever it might be. Get in there and do your energization, do your Mahamudra, go into meditation, make sure those Kriyas are the enlivened part of that beginning of the day. And then this, we may meditate at lunch or whatever, and then that second time of meditation is something we have to dance with. Isn't that true often? Depending on our schedule, depending on what's happening in our lives. I don't know about you, but before Kriya initiations, we meditate pretty early in the afternoon to make sure we've got a solid piece of meditation before coming to Kriya. So we start meditating maybe at 3:30 in the afternoon. Now that's just barely 3 hours after lunch. But my orientation is always, I want to be alive in Kriya. And so even before Kriya initiation, we know we're going to meditate for at least a half an hour prior to the beginning of the ceremony itself, and we're going to meditate to some degree during the ceremony. But why not increase that? Why not endeavor to do more? Now, some of the people, of course, are here early setting up for Kriya, and they can't do that, what I've just described. But then to go home after the Kriya initiation and to meditate more. how can we fit that in? How do we really enliven that experience so that each one of us is not just doing it, but we're in it. We're shifting from the techniques, the technical, the stuff part, into enlivening all of that with the sense of, as that phrase from Swami, make every Kriya an act of just that selfless expression of love. Be in that love, be in that devotion, and let it just seep into every part. But then let that courage, that commitment, that energy that we bring to it, cement it as a relationship that we are transformed completely.
Thank you, Ramesha. When you are the fourth speaker, you're always nervous that they're going to say everything. And they did. So, but what I would like to talk about is specifically how to carry Kriya consciousness into your everyday life. And I want to sort of talk a little bit more specifically because Gyandev and Parvati and Pranaba have covered this framework of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is to, as Pranaba said, Swamiji mentioned at that Kriya that I was at, many of us were at, define yourself as a Kriyaban. Not as a lawyer who does Kriya, but a Kriyaban who does law. A Kriyaban who does construction, who does teaching, is a mother, is whatever your situation is. In other words, if we define ourselves as beings of light, as Kriyabans, as disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, students and friends of Swami Kriyananda, that are playing out our karma in some job, in some situation in life, and those change. We've been doing Kriya for 50 years, so the 20-year-old Ananda was a different role in life than I am now. But I'm not that role. Naya Swami no longer exists as a separate entity. So it will really help you, I think it will really help you, if you define yourself as a timeless being of light. You have no body, you have no name. Well, if you have a name, it's Om. But you have no form, you have no karma, you have nothing but the light and love of God. That is the state of a master. And what I'm advocating is that you play the part of a master acting out in your karmic role. Jyotish and Devi play the part of spiritual directors now. And we all play a part appropriate to our life. But for each of us, and this is going to be individual, you have to play the part that you are karmically assigned from the point of view of the point between the eyebrows. You have to be nameless, ever free. I am Om, omnipresent, I am Om. At that point, and then you're playing your part. You are a farm worker. You are a teacher in Living Wisdom School. You are a mother. You are a mother of teenage children. You are a mother of little children. But you are the consciousness of Kriya that you experience in meditation. So in meditation, we rest the body. Gyandev outlined this. We go into the spine. We bring the energy to the center of whatever light you see, and we are that light. There is stillness, there is calmness. Then, for most of us, we have to begin our daily duties. We have to check the messages, check the emails, see what workers are coming to work, check our briefs for we have a day in court. We are managing a company, we have to check the schedule and all these things. But if you can do that from the point of view of that center of that star, it is going to keep you away from the restlessness, the darkness that we've been mentioning exists. It does exist. But we don't need to go into that. We need to watch this world from the point between the eyebrows. We need to see the love and the souls in all of our customers, clients, adversaries, team members, workers, co-workers, opposing judges, the whole thing. And over the years, and I think Parvati was alluding to this, Master has put us in all sorts of positions, doing all sorts of things, and we haven't done any of it. He is doing it through us. Helene Nayaswami Jaya and I were chatting a couple of years ago. Jaya currently is serving in India, but Jaya used to serve at Ananda village for many, many, many years with Sadhana Devi. And Jaya and I were just talking. From the very beginning, Swamiji said, try to make God is the doer. God's doing this. We're not doing this. God's doing it. And we were, 20-year-old Ananda. Yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. God's doing this. God's doing this. And I could feel it. And I could experience it. But a couple of months ago or a year ago, Jaya and I were talking. Jaya is in Ananda, India. God's doing it. God's doing Ananda, India. Master's doing it. And we were Jaya was really enthused that God's doing it because he's the titular head of Ananda, India with Dhyana, and it's going really good. This is something that Maria and I noticed in Sacramento is we were sent to Sacramento. We had no clue, no qualifications, and Swamiji said, you can do it. And we said, Master can do it. And we had no clue what was going to happen. So what we did is we took Ram's sandals and we put him on the throne and let him do it. And it worked perfectly. Everything happened. Everything was smooth and joyful. And we would say, what would Swamiji do? What did Swamiji teach us to do? Okay, we'll do that. And we just inwardly, we'd call him periodically, but it wasn't a daily, here are the instructions for the day. It was every once in a while, oh boy, things are going good. Oh, that's really good. He did stop us from opening a bookstore too soon with a letter. That was wonderful. Thank you, Swamiji. We were going to open it a couple of years before Master wanted it open, but we were getting into the enthusiasm. And he said, why not wait? Just very softly. Anyway, the point is that what we need to do, and each of us as an individual, you need to construct a mindset for the position that you're in that puts Master doing your job, that keeps you seeing the light and the beauty and the love that is shining all around you. That is the job of a Master. That is your job. It's going to be different. I can't tell you what you should do because it's different. It's different for me at different times. A lot of time, I'm driving a 20-ton tractor in a circle. And the way to remember God when doing that, if that turns out to be your karma next week, is chant. Just chant to God and drive the tractor in a circle. But some of us have to argue a law case. Some of us have to run a company. Some of us have to teach children. Some of us have to raise children. You have to find the way that God does it through you and take the light of that Kriya practice and bring it into your situation. Keep in mind, you're not doing this. God is doing this through you. Dialogue with Master is very helpful. Swamiji said, keep a constant dialogue with Master. My theory is, and I've shared this with some of you, I don't think Swami Kriyananda had a plan for Ananda. I think that everything was audibilized from Paramahansa Yogananda calling the plays in his right ear. Swami, do this. Swami, do that. Now let's do this. Now let's do that. And Swamiji was just listening. And it's very helpful to just listen to Master give you the play for the day. I'm often fixing something or planting something. Master, what's wrong with this plant? Master, why is this happening? Then you just get the answer. Find the way that your consciousness doesn't leave the point between the eyebrows throughout the day. Whether you're teaching or singing or negotiating or whatever it is. Connect your spiritual eye with your customer, your client, or the adversarial lawyer that's arguing against you. We ran the East-West bookshop for 11 years in Sacramento. And what we decided as a staff was, every customer is Paramahansa Yogananda in disguise. How can we serve you, Master? What can we do? What would you like to know? UFOs? Sure. Whatever you want, Master, because you're running this movie. We just work here. And so you develop that habit. And in that, you gain a tremendous amount of freedom. You gain a tremendous amount of joy. I was enjoying Gyandev saying that when you start on the spiritual path, there's restlessness and there's darkness and there's pulls of sensuality and materialism. That is true. But as you practice Kriya regularly and faithfully, you find that just falls away. And you don't have restlessness. You don't have attachment to your version of the script. Like Parvati said, you hit that concrete wall, but then you realize, no, Italy. I'm supposed to go to Italy now. Yes, Master. Yes, Swamiji, I'm going to Italy now. And just let them run the movie. I can't promise what will happen on your spiritual journey because just like the practices, each one of us, the developments are different. But what often happens, many disciples find that with Kriya practice, regularly and faithfully as it is taught to me, the world, the veil of Maya begins to develop holes in it. And you see through it. And you realize that this is God serving God. This is God loving God. That every customer that comes in your store, every opposing businessman, every city official that wants to stop the project is God playing the part of a grumpy bureaucrat behind a desk telling you, you can't build the Temple of Light. You can't open the Temple of Light until you have the occupancy form. You know, all these things. I was a building contractor. My dad was a building contractor. I've been this through for 70 years. And you can react, but Maria Potapovskaya says, don't react. Just look past this person's personality to the light in that person. They're trying to do their job as best they understand. Connect with them from here. Bless them silently. When I was building buildings, I was building buildings and I was a Kriyaban. So I was blessing all the bars and I was blessing the houses I was going to build, and I was hoping that everyone that ever comes in this house has a vision of God and sees Krishna, and then I realized, well, this is unlikely, sees Christ or whatever. I was blessing the buildings. And then the company that I work for but I was saying, I wish I was building just churches. The company I was working for, a man that facilitates churches, building churches, came to our company, and he handed us church after church. So I got to build the Presbyterian church, the Baptist church, all these churches. And I just was blessing them and thinking, this is a house of God, and people will come here and be inspired. We bless the vegetables. We bless everyone. We om. Oh, I hope that everyone that eats this vegetable realizes the self. Constantly. Just think of God and just live your life from that point of joy. It will affect people, not by the outward things that you say, because it may not be practical for you to meditate or do Mahamudra at the office. It may be very unpractical. You don't have to be weird about it. You can hide it. You can be undercover master in your job. You're down in some dingy corporate basement with no windows and a little cubicle and your little screen, and you're supposed to enter the data. Look behind the data to intelligence and order that is a part of wisdom, divine wisdom, and look at what you can see. Feel that. And just disconnect from the fact that this is stupid. Don't hold those thoughts that keep you separate from the divine. They're not beneficial. And as we've been saying, when you go back for evening Kriya, if you can stay in the light all day, your evening meditation is going to be way better. It's going to be way better because you're not pulling out of the spine. You're not getting involved in the corporate decisions and the politics and the world politics and the politicians and the invasion of Ukraine and all those horrible things that go on every single day. But Babaji and Christ have a plan for salvation for this world, and you're part of it. You're a very important part of it because you're part of the salvation of this world. And you start to see, as the veil gets thinner, you start to see beauty and light everywhere in people that you never thought you could see it in. I can see it in ignorant politicians because behind the foolishness of their ego is a genuine desire to help things be better from their point of view. I'm not condoning it. I'm not approving it. I'm saying that the real movie here is God moving towards liberation and freedom and light. And we need to practice that. And the good news is it's difficult at first, and then it's effortlessly liberating. You can't imagine how good it is to do Kriya year after year. It's enjoyable beyond imagination of expectancy. I realize that now. When I was 20, I was really uptight because I wasn't seeing Krishna every day. And I would, you're just trying. And Swamiji would say, practice regularly and faithfully. Practice with devotion. And it'll all come together. It does come together. And various disciples, all of us in this room, will have various experiences of the divine. You will see the Divine Mother in the form of a young woman. You will see the Divine Heavenly Father in the form of an old man working in a factory in Grass Valley. With all his tools. I went there. Ram Dass sent me there. He said, there's a guy out there. You can go and he'll weld up that thing for you. Part of the tractor needed welding. And I went there, and Father Time was there. He's an old man. He was in an old barn with the tools, the saw, that first saw, and then that one wore out, and then he put the second one on the top of that. He put the third one on the top of that, and he had to be 90. Of course, now I'm 70, so I'm almost there. But it was it was God. There he was in Grass Valley in this old barn, and he was going to fix my tractor for Master, because I don't have a tractor. Master has a tractor. Ananda is Master's work. And that's what's happening. You go to that consciousness and it becomes more frequent. That's the secret of why Swamiji was always smiling. Because that's how he saw it. That's how he saw all of us. That's why Master's smiling. You have no idea how beautiful you are. Silver light and golden light. That comes to the Kriyaban regularly. Now, it may not come in the visual form to you. You may just feel it, but you will feel it. You will feel his love and his power is flowing through you. Then who are you? You're Om. You're nobody. You're nothing. You're formless. You're free. You're deathless. You're free. Death? That's nothing to be afraid of. My father died, and I had one regret. I hadn't given him like a hug, at the end. I talked to him 2 days before. He had a heart attack, just died. And I just had one regret. I was like, I wished I could have, said goodbye. So that night I had a dream. And my brother Gary drove my dad up. My dad got out of the car, and I just went up to him, and I went, Dad! And I gave him a hug, and I said, I thought you're dead. And he goes, oh, that. Oh, that. Death? Huh. Seva, Ananda, there was Swamiji. All of our friends, there was Swamiji. We're here. They're there. We're all together. We're together right here, aren't we? Aren't we just trying to serve? Aren't we beings of light? So practice it. And no matter what your situation, and this is a creative challenge for you, you've got to find that place within your life, within your consciousness, where you are God. And you are shining the light of Kriya every day. God bless you all.
So let's take a break and then we'll come back for our new meditation.
Thanks, guys. That's beautiful. Nice portrayal of Master being Master.
I'm probably going to sit like that, and then I'll just push it forward, so doing it here is safe, yeah?
Do we have a minute? Just,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, if I bump it, I bump it. So, with our eyes closed, I invite you now to offer up your own silent prayer from the language of your heart. Now, whether that's in silent words or just the feeling of your heart being open, take a moment or so in that very special way to feel you are the prayer with God and Guru, and be alive in that experience. So just on your own, mentally. And continue to feel that presence as we chant and meditate. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Om, Sri Guru Deva Amen. Let's go deep quickly. Let's feel ourselves alive in that experience of God's grace. Feeling for each one of us that we're a clear and open channel. And tuning into the blessings that we've received in this time together as the Kriyaban retreat and the Inner Renewal retreat for those who are here for that. Feel those blessings not meant to be contained, but to radiate out the essence of these blessings out into the world. So let's chant Om 3 times, rubbing our palms together, raising the hands, and feel this grace, these blessings, encircling the globe, filling each soul that's receptive with this blessing.